hard to win your first start in the NFL as a quarterback. Of course, in the case of Luke McCown, he started a whole lot of games elsewhere, but this was his first start as a Saint and his first start in the NFL since 2011 with Jacksonville. And it was a very good start for McCown and the Saints at Carolina. They played much better, much more competitive, but in the end, the same result, a loss, their third, 27-22. Panthers get the win, gave up 431 yards. Cam Newton suddenly looked like Joe Montana, even though he's more known for his running and even though he has no wide receivers, right? And Marcus Murphy, very encouraging. One really good kickoff return, and of course, the outstanding punt return for a touchdown, the first punt return for a touchdown by a Saint since 2011 when a guy named Darren Sproles turned the trick. Remember him? Oh, by the way, he had a 90-yard touchdown for Philadelphia against the Jets yesterday as well. Salt in the wound. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv, the Saints and the Panthers, and again, in my estimation, a much better effort by the Saints. This was the kind of effort that had they performed that way against Tampa Bay, they certainly would have won that game. Tampa Bay, you know, the team that went out and scored 9 points yesterday and lost again at home, that Tampa Bay. The Saints are 0-3, they've earned it, and obviously when you look at this game, Brian, against Carolina, the positives very clearly Luke McCown. You start right there. He was outstanding. And, of course, Marcus Murphy, that has to be considered a positive as well. On the defensive side, if you're looking for positives, well, you got a couple of good moments from players like Swan and maybe Kikaha, but overall, not good enough. This defense isn't good enough.
Yeah, I agree totally, Kenny. I mean, really, from an all-around aspect, it's probably the best of the 3 games, and they're still 0-3. You know, a couple of things just pop out immediately. Luke McCown obviously was everything that he did, everything enough to win, except through an interception. And I can make a case that probably the biggest play he was involved in, Kenny, one of the bigger plays, I should say, was the muffed handle of that extra point, because that put them in a hole that they kept chasing that point for the rest of the game, and that really influenced how they approached the final 2 quarters of the game. But I'll tell you what, Luke McCown wasn't the reason that they lost yesterday. And I like the fact that they went forward on 3rd and 6 and go to the end zone. I like that play. I've got no problems with that play.
A daring coach. Imagine that.
Yes.
There you go.
Fourth
went
down
back
play
to being
too,
daring. 4th and 1,
yeah.
and they converted. Let's take a look at Luke McCown's numbers, because they really do tell you the story about just how well he played in this game. 80% completion percentage. Passer rating was good. He made every right decision according to Drew Brees in this game. He was calm and collected in the pocket. He escaped pressure a couple of times. Ricky, I can't imagine that Drew Brees could have played any better than this at Carolina.
No, but I mean, the game plan was short and quick and sweet. And, you know, and that was the difference. Carolina was looking for the Saints to be where they was normally, but yesterday they changed the whole game plan. They gave him all the dink-and-dink stuff, and Carolina wasn't ready for it. But on the interception, the receiver should have came back and fought for that football. You know, you can't never let that happen. And that's one thing I seen last night. They had, Peyton had a lot of great receivers. The ball was thrown. Those guys went up and tucked passes last night from the defender. And our guys, once the ball thrown, they think it's the defensive ball when it's really the offense ball. And you need supposed to be #1 receiver. Cook got to go get that ball.
I agree with you 1,000%, because that's a play. I know a lot of people have taken issue with, why did you take a shot there? I have no problem with that.
Right.
You have to score a touchdown to win the game. People are saying, well, you could have run the clock. You're just assuming you can run the clock and score a touchdown like that? It doesn't happen that way. If you needed a field goal, that would have been a sound approach, but you needed a touchdown. Nothing wrong with the call, nothing wrong with the throw. I agree 100% with Ricky. That's a play where Cooks has to go up, high point the ball, and at the very least become a defensive player if the defensive back is in a position to make a play, which Norman did. But that's all about having playmakers, Brian. That's a playmaker on defense. The Saints don't have any of those.
And Ricky alluded to it with the receivers. You can go up and down their roster with their receivers right now. Brandon Cooks at the best is a #2 receiver on most teams. Marcus Colston, I love Marcus. We love Marcus on this
He's
panel.
a Saints Hall of Famer.
He is.
Okay?
He's truly, and Marcus, it's time to consider this. It's time to consider. You made 2 big drops in the last quarter that affected the way that they call the game. You can't do that. People have got to step up And, you know, again, I'll defend. We have taken shots at Sean Payton on his play calling on this panel, and rightfully so. But I think that was a good call. Ricky's right. And you know what? Brandon Cooks admitted it afterward, acknowledged afterward he needed to strip the ball from Josh Norman's hands. And you know what? Just a real quick.
He's a good kid, by the way.
He's a good kid. And look, just a background. They ran the play with Colston prior, I believe, okay? And Colston actually got behind Norman. So McCown goes to Payton on the sideline and says, let's run it again. They ran it with with Cooks, and that's why they took the shot again. And Norman played it much better. But put a little more air under the ball, or Cooks has to come back and defend it, and it's maybe a different ball game.
Yeah, but you seen last night, you seen all the great receivers come back and fight for that ball.
I'm
and that's
with
the
you,
only
man.
thing
I'm
I'm saying. He kept going. But the drops that Colston did yesterday, I mean, to be a veteran receiver, you can't take that. The team can't afford it. They're not good enough to go with that. And then you got the young guys come in.
Willie Snead had a big drop.
Well, Snead had a big drop.
Yeah.
And,
But Colston could have had the 2-point conversion. That was
Yeah.
a catchable ball, too.
Right.
It wasn't a drop, but it was a catchable ball.
And 16, the one that you love so much, I don't know when he
Coleman.
started playing football, but he act like he never seen football before. So they got a lot of receivers just really moping around out there.
Well, while the offense, of course, did some good things and then had a few issues, as we mentioned, the defense has a lot of issues because opposing quarterbacks, well, they've pretty much had their way against the Saints. Take a look at the opposing quarterback passer ratings against the Saints. Carson Palmer off the charts. Jameis Winston, that never should have happened. And then Cam Newton. Look, Cam Newton's a veteran, and he's a good player, but they've got no wide receivers at all. They lost Kelvin Benjamin. They lost Jericho Cotchery. They've got guys off the practice squad playing wide receiver, and still they're making plays. And, Ricky, that leads me to this. Where was the focus on Greg Olsen? Their wide receivers are chopped up. They don't have any real top-flight wide receivers on their squad, and Olsen is a top-flight tight end. How could you not bracket him? How could you not make him the focal point of your defensive effort in the passing game, knowing full well what their wide receivers were?
Well, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, he was open all day, and we should have had 2 men on him all day because he's a great receiver. You see he can catch the ball. They throw the ball, he catch the ball with one hand. He did a great job yesterday. But we didn't focus on him. He should have been all day as a leading target. We're going to cover him. Their receivers didn't supposed to be that good, but again, he's a great receiver. He had a lot of speed.
But he's not a good receiver. He's a special teams guy who doesn't even play wide receiver in the NFL the past few years, but he sure looked the part of a wide receiver
yesterday,
against
but
the Saints.
what we should have been doing, putting a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
And
we
they
should
can't
have
do
been,
it.
I mean, normally we blitz, and it seemed like that yesterday. We just had a 4-man rush all day. We gave him way too much time. And that's happened the last 2 ball games, at quarterback, they're going to find somebody open if they take that much time.
Opposing quarterbacks go to the line of scrimmage now. They identify the Mike backer.
Right.
And then they go to, where is Brandon Browner? And they throw against his receiver. I mean, Brandon Browner is exactly who we thought he was. He's supposed to be good in a 5-yard box. He's physical. He's got 5 or 6 flags already on him for being physical.
5 in 3 games.
Yeah, all right. So, but every time he can't cover after 5 yards, gentlemen. You know it. He gets beat. Every big play he gave up yesterday.
Well, he had protection in Seattle because of all the players they have.
And then
he doesn't have that here with the pass rush or the other defensive backs. He is who we thought he is.
Yeah.
He led the league in penalties a year ago. He can't run in space, so he grabs people. And by the way, it's not just his inability against the pass. He had the responsibility on the touchdown run by Cam Newton and lost total contained. He bit on the play.
Well, one thing you got to realize, they got nobody that can beat anybody one-on-one. And that's the whole battle with the defense. If the secondary going to have to cover, you need great cover guys if nobody's going to get to the quarterback. Quarterback got no pressure on him, so that take a longer. You got to stay with a guy a lot longer. He can't run that fast.
No, and they're not going to get a pass rush unless they blitz because you know who you are. Gillette was your pass rusher. He's not here. You know you don't have pass rushers. Kikaha, decent, not very big, might be a guy down the road, but not right now. So they don't have it. It's real simple, Brian.
No, I agree. After 3 games, it's apparent to me that when Keenan Lewis comes back, you've got Keenan Lewis.
Damian Swan, good-looking player.
Well, maybe so. And look,
And
P.J.
Delvin
Williams
Bro's
is
okay.
hurt too.
Right.
All right, but put Keenan Lewis and Delvin Breaux on the other
Swan.
side, or Swan, and you put Brandon Browner down, and that's it. I mean, He's shown enough.
Another great signing, right?
Yeah.
But regardless of what you got to get a pass rush.
I
mean,
agree.
I don't care. Guys can't cover all
Can't.
day, and then
Not
you only can hit a guy 5 yards, chuck him a little bit.
One of the problems is they want to try to get going a 4-man pass rush, and they can't do it.
Right.
If they bring extra help, then they really are exposed. So they've got a big dilemma.
It's darned if you do, darned if you don't. I think it's the way we say it here at WHNO. sportsNOLAtv is brought to you by Premier Chrysler Jeep Dodge, located at 13,000 I-10 Service Road in New Orleans East. At Premier, you'll get a reliable and stylish new or used car at a price you can afford with Premier's expansive inventory of new and used cars. Premier Chrysler Jeep Dodge is here to help you find your dream car, and we will let you know about some of the special deals and incentives later in the show. When we return, we'll turn our attention to the NFL as sportsNOLAtv continues on WHNO.